As coisas que a gente fazia lá no servidorzinho. Nova York. Ah, mentira, não existe.
Well, doesn't look like anybody's home, and that's because this building is fake.
What?
Stories that it's a secret passageway down to the depths of New York.
Sometimes when you walk by at night, there's like a glow, it's like an orange glow.
Many are calling this skyscraper the most terrifying building in the world.
I've definitely heard that there's maybe some secret government stuff in there.
False facades like this one hiding government facilities are hardly unique throughout the country.
What? Por que tem construção fake?
Not everyone knows it's a fake building.
I thought it was just a regular building. I mean, I come up the street all the time.
That's crazy. You're probably not the only person.
Mano,
So
aí, papo reto. Que porcaria de prédio é esse, velho?
World.
I've definitely heard that there's maybe some secret government
Isso é louco.
stuff in there.
False facades like this one hiding government facilities are hardly unique throughout the country.
Not everyone knows it's a fake building.
I thought it was just a regular building. I mean, I come up the street all the time.
That's crazy. You're probably not the only person.
No.
So this is our first fake building, 58 Joralemon Street. We've got a whole bunch of fake buildings to look at today, a creepy tower with no windows, a former biolab, and they're all here in New York.
Others who live in the neighborhood
Que
say once
isso?
they notice the building, they notice some strange sights and sounds. It's like something out of Ghostbusters.
Look, it's so famous, it has its own Wikipedia article
Caralho.
about how it's fake, and that's how you know it's the real deal. Now, from the outside, it looks like your typical townhouse. You got your townhouse windows, your little townhouse fence, your creepy-looking staircase. But all of this metal here, this should give it away that there's something going on. And the windows are fully blacked out. If you had this tint on your
É
car,
bait
the
do
cops
governo.
would probably arrest you. And look at the door. This thing is not designed to be opened by mere mortals. And honestly, it doesn't really stand out at all. It looks
Pô.
completely normal.
E se chegar alguém e começar a tentar quebrar a porta pra entrar? Tipo, começar, tipo... serrar, tá ligado? Será que chega gente pra parar, assim? Instantaneamente, polícia? Pô, e se na verdade for, tipo, uma casa que um mano fez, o cara comprou e falou, mano, vou meter o louco. Vou deixar totalmente fechado aqui, parecendo um bagulho bizarro, e é isso.
Now, the building was originally constructed in 1847 as a private residence. For about 60 years, people lived here, but that all changed in 1907 when it was purchased by the Interborough Rapid Transit Company. They were the original New York City underground subway that was started in 1904, and the reason that they bought this particular building is because their subway runs directly underneath it. And since the subway consists of long tunnels with air moving through it, you've got to vent the air out somehow. Now, the building and all the buildings on the street predate the subway underneath the street. So that's why you can't just put a vent here. There's already something here. So the people building the subway bought the building and completely hollowed out the interior. And that makes it the world's only Greek revival subway
Posto de ventilação, velho.
ventilation shaft. It also
Já tentaram, já.
doubles
você viu.
as an
Dá pra ver,
emergency exit for the subways underneath it. Which means if you're on the 4 and the 5 trains and there's a reason to evacuate, you might find yourself in this little neighborhood. And it's really like the most unlikely place for something like this to even exist. And if you're curious what something like this costs to buy, the building next door, this
6
one right
milhão.
here, sold for $6 million about a year ago. You see our metal hatch right here that is impenetrable. This is what that probably looked like, a little courtyard with like a basement apartment. Now, it might seem sad that this building no longer looks like this building, but in a city like New York, there's just so much going on here. We need things like fake buildings to hold it together and to do crazy science experiments.
Caralho. Entendi, boa gravação dele andando aí, mano. Ih, caralho, tentaram quebrar. É tiro? Ué?
Does
Ficou
it
pedra.
still look like a biolab from over 100 years ago? Because that's what it was. This is the Strecker Memorial Laboratory. Now today, it's a fake building, but it used to engage in bacteriological research right here on Roosevelt
Bactéria,
Island.
tá cheio de bactéria aí, vai pegar doença.
It's probably the right place for weird research that could, you know, get out. You don't want it to get out. This could be like the X-Files, where if the infected bee stings you, something happens to you. It was built in 1892 as a laboratory for City Hospital. hospital. And the weird stuff that's in there now is definitely interesting. And apparently it had an autopsy room. Creepy. Right now I keep seeing these bizarre furnace things inside.
Porra é essa? Pra botar fogo em corpo?
Blacked out, can't see anything.
Que porra é essa? Vamos botar fogo em corpo aí morto? Caralho, saúde de autópsia é um bagulho de fornalha aqui.
Furnace things inside. Basement windows are blacked out, can't see anything. Whoa, the side. It's looking real creepy. I hear like a lot of fans and stuff way up there. What's in here now?
Yeah.
I heard aliens.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
we better get out of here.
It could be a little house in the country somewhere, but here it is isolated all by itself, and again, probably for good reason. Now, if you don't know, Roosevelt Island is an island. We got Queens over in this direction, and then we got this massive bridge which will bring you over to Manhattan. And believe it or not, this place was a lab until the 1950s when it was completely abandoned, and it sat here for 22 years doing nothing. And then in 1972, it was designated as a historic landmark. And in the year 2000, it was purchased by the MTA that takes care of the subway and the trains. They're the ones operating the building today. You can see some very interesting equipment in there and a rather menacing looking hornet nest. I guess hornets are what put these holes in the glass. I don't know what type of experiments they were doing over 100 years ago, but now there is a lot of voltage running through here, and it's a power conversion substation for the subway trains, and they need power. Listen to the door. It is singing.
Caralho.
Now, we think that they had to remove things like the autopsy room and the alien room in order to make room for all the power stations and all that crazy humming that we heard back there. But it's crazy to me that there was an actual lab here doing weird pathology across from where millions of people live. Man, these bees are everywhere. Soon, we're gonna go see a tower that's straight out of a science fiction movie. But first, we're gonna go see a building that was scientifically impossible to build, or so people thought.
Fodeu. Cara, aquele prédio ali eu tô pensativo, mano. Ih, governo.
Does this look like the site of our next secret building? It is, and it's a great place to hide something you don't want anyone to touch, and it's all the way out here in the middle of the river. We're standing on Pier 34 in Manhattan. Look at that view. You can also see the ESB and the Statue of Liberty. Look at how long this pier is. It goes all the way out, and you're probably wondering why there's a fake building in the middle of the river. Well, the reason that it's here is that it has to be here. It can't be on land because the thing that it does is under the water. We got a little security booth over here. Where are they going? What are they gonna do? Maybe they're gonna drive over here. You can't actually get to that side. That's like government only. This side people can walk on and fish on. That's what our friend is up to. But the reason this is here is because deep beneath the clear blue waters of the Hudson River is the Holland Tunnel. According to the map, it is directly below us at this moment. And at the time the tunnel was built, experts thought it was impossible to have a 2-mile-long tunnel with cars and exhaust fumes because all those fumes are in the tunnel. They can only escape at either end. You've got to have ventilation, and at the time, it hadn't been done before. Now, the tunnel itself took 7 years to build. Construction started in 1920, ended in 1927. What did you think it was when you first saw it?
Oh, some kind of generator or some, some generator system? Or
Now, 100,000 cars a day drive into Manhattan. 34 million people a year make this trip. So the tunnel's a big deal. It's doing what it needs to do. But the only reason it can do that is because inside here we've got massive fans that force air into the tunnel and suck air out. And believe it or not, this is not the only fake tower over here. There's 4 of these. Half of them suck the air out. The other half force it in. You can see another one way over here on the New Jersey side. See it? Right down there. It looks exactly the same. What's crazy is these things are almost 100 years old and they're still ticking away doing their thing. And it was all done before computers. Paper and pencil is how we got the Holland Tunnel. And when you think about how critically important this piece of infrastructure is, you definitely don't want any unauthorized people inside of it. And look at these security gates. There's 2 sets of them, signs everywhere saying don't come in. Might be a police cruiser back there. There's also an ominous light on right there. That's a light bulb. But then look at that up there. They got satellite TV. And soon we're gonna go see the crazy skyscraper that has no windows and a hidden secret purpose. But it's important to understand that when the government wants to build a fake building, it doesn't always go as planned, and sometimes it ends in disaster.
Legal. Interessante. E mais um. Fodeu. Que porra é essa, velho? Puta que pariu, aí fudeu.
Do you hear that? There's something going on in there. This is either the ugliest fake building ever built, or it is a masterpiece designed by a collective group of misunderstood geniuses. But the result is the same.
Os caras fez um bagulho de bricks aqui igual das padrão de Nova York.
Right now we're on the corner
Sem janela, não entendi, velho.
Greenwich Avenue, and this is Mullery Square, and this building behind me is owned by the MTA. And I don't think they did a very good job of hiding the fakeness of this fake building. Like, look at this facade. No windows. It doesn't even extend to all sides. It's also incredibly noisy. There's a bunch of fans and vents in here that are related to the healthy functioning of the subway, which runs underneath the city. This thing is all vents and portals. Over here on the side, you can actually see a really big one. Now, part of the reason the design is so awful is because these fences, these were originally part of a very special 9/11 memorial, which was here in the square. But the MTA owns the square, and the fence was just there to protect it. Here's an image of the fencing before the building was here. Those pieces of the fence are what you see on the outside of this superstructure. Now, the purpose of a fake building is to blend in with the surrounding area so that residents don't notice and so that it doesn't bring down property values. But to me, this just looks like an unfinished disaster. And what's also strange is even though this is a new vent station, underneath it, there aren't really any new trains. We've got the same subway lines under it that we had before it was built. And the construction of this thing was highly contested. There was a lot of back and forth between local community boards, historical preservation groups, and the city, which owned the property, to try to come up with something that made everybody happy. And I don't know. Does this make anybody happy? What is nice is that they kept pieces of the original fence.
Mano, parece lugar onde você joga corpos e bota fogo, mano.
Some of the original memorial artwork. It was called Tiles for America. But the next place we're looking at is highly secretive and is the subject of many conspiracy theories.
Porra de prédio é esse? Eu nunca tinha visto, velho. Ah, AT&T. AT&T mesmo? É, mas por que o prédio da AT&T é assim? Hã? What?
Many are calling this skyscraper the most terrifying building in the world. Tom Hanks sure thinks so. This is the scariest building I've ever seen. What goes on inside?
So this tower right here is 33 Thomas Street, and I think it looks pretty weird. It's 550 feet tall.
Parece o prédio lá dos super-heróis do One Punch Man, tá ligado?
It has
que tipo, tem um bagulho é feito de, sei lá, de caralho de ferro aí absurdo, que se explodir a porra da cidade inteira, esse prédio fica em pé.
29 floors, and construction was started in 1969. It also doesn't have any windows. Those aren't windows, those are vents to circulate air. And that's because inside of it are organic life forms, and they need air to live, we think. And even though the building is in such a highly prominent part of Lower Manhattan, we really don't know much about it. But we know that it's owned by AT&T. We know the address because it's written on the side of the building.
Vidas orgânicas, tá querendo dizer o quê? Que vidas orgânicas? Vidas orgânicas animais e tudo mais? Ou tá querendo dizer vidas orgânicas aí... sei lá, umas bactérias aí testando aí os bagulho. Que isso, não é possível.
The architectural style used here is called brutalism, and legend has it that a long time ago it was a telephone switching center for long-distance phone calls.
It's the Men in Black headquarters.
I've definitely heard that there's maybe some secret government stuff in there.
I think that's pretty much a guarantee. Look at it. It's like an impenetrable fortress. There's this massive retaining wall. There's cameras everywhere. And it's kind of eerie. Like, it's so big and there's no people. There's like nothing going on here, and they don't give tours.
Os caras não entram por aí pela entrada do AT&T nem fudendo.
Tour. This is the fenced-off parking lot out back. Got some AT&T trucks. This has been described as one of the most secure buildings in America, and that's where the conspiracies start. Why is it so big? Why is it so weird? Why is it so secure?
It may be the only skyscraper in New York City built to withstand a nuclear blast. There's reportedly...
Acabei de falar isso, mano. O jeito que a construção é, mano, se o bagulho explodir nuclear, o bagulho fica em pé, tá ligado?
Enough food, water, water, and generator fuel to sustain 1,500 people for 2 weeks.
So I guess you could say it's like a huge doomsday bunker. Now, obviously, it's got some sort of basement. That's why
mano, aí que tá os heróis, mano.
these cars are able to drive in there, but most of the building is what you see right here. And if there's an earthquake or some
Teste com animal?
disaster in New York, this might be the last building standing. Could it be?
Mas por que AT&T? Será que o AT&T eles colocam, tipo, fakeio? É, deve fakear, mano.
Some sort of modern day Noah's Ark for elites.
Fez uma conversinha com o AT&T e falou, mano, ó, governador, vocês vão colocar como AT&T, mas a gente vai fazer umas coisas diferentes aqui, mano.
Holds 1,500 people, food, supplies, water, necessities.
E pode entrar aqui ou não?
That's insane. Weird, the facade here is kind of crumbling a little bit. I guess that's not as resilient as the superstructure. And look at this grand entrance that it has. It's almost like it was designed for masses of people to be walking in and out as they go to do things. Like it's not supposed to be a big secret, yet it is a big secret. And apparently the ceilings inside here are 18 feet tall, and the floors can hold 300 pounds of force per square foot. So you could move really heavy, large things around in there. And check this out, right on Wikipedia, it basically says it's probably the location of a national security agency mass surveillance hub. Maybe that's why it's so tall. There could be antennas, there could be all kinds of stuff in there, picking up signals, sending out signals, who knows? I also love how pretty much every car out front has, you know, the little
deve ser uma coisa
antenna, super dark window tint so you can't see in. But if you think about it, a massive...
E são carros, né, amassados, né, se for pra ver, ó.
Oh, pretty much every car out front has, you know, the little antenna, super dark window tint so you can't see in. But if you think about it, a massive building with no windows and tons of security...
Ou pode ser um prédio bait, né? Um prédio bait da AT&T pra, tipo, os caras acharem que é coisa de, tipo, agente, os caras 4, o bagulho de teste aí. Só que, na verdade, é só um bait lá, é tudo normal, é só pessoas trabalhando normalmente. Pra, na verdade, os caras usar um prédio que, tipo, é um prédio com janela e tudo certo, e aí estão trabalhando com bagulho bizarro, tá ligado?
Everywhere and nobody coming in and out. This is the perfect place to hide and do things that you really want to keep a secret. But what do you think happens inside here or any of the other places we checked out? Let me know if I missed any fake buildings in New York. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Nice video. Bom vídeo, bom vídeo. Falei, mano, parece o do One Punch, mano. Explodir toda a cidade de bagulho assim, tá?